every morning with drive. Being on the grind, know I had to survive. We had to win. Started from the dirt and the rubble. I had to be the needle that was popping your bubble.
Hello and welcome into the Rookie Prospect Profile Series, a Zilla Fantasy Elite production. Today we're going to be looking at wide receiver Jamari Thrash within the rookie wide receiver machine learning models. Will Jamari Thrash be a late round fantasy gem, or is he destined to ride the pine or in your taxi squad, not providing any fantasy value? Stay tuned to our machine learning models as they hold the answers. Jamari Thrash played college football with the Louisville Cardinals and the Georgia State Panthers while in college, and he was drafted number 156 overall by the Cleveland Browns. Jamari Thrash comes in at 6 foot, 188 pounds, 34-inch vertical, kind of right on the threshold of okay. Not great there. 4.46 in the 40-yard dash is pretty solid, except he's 188 pounds, so you'd hope that'd be a little bit faster. Jamari Thrash, 6 foot, 188, not terribly big, but he's supposed to be a separator, supposed to be a good route runner, and that's kind of his call to fame. So what will the machine learning models think of him? He's got a 37.6% college dominator rating, a 28.2% college target share, draft pick 156. We know hand size is very important in the rookie models. He's at 8.625, so 8 5/8 inch hands, which is pretty small for a wide receiver. So what will the machine learning models say? Let's now dive into those first year predictions. And we can see here for Jamari Thrash in year one, he's got the 21st ranked mean and median. He was the 23rd wide receiver drafted in the NFL draft by the Cleveland Browns there, but kind of got one of those profiles with the maximum at 8.37, 29th ranked, in the minimum at 11th ranked, 1.69 fantasy points per game. We see one of those high floor, low ceiling guys. A lot of times those are roster cloggers on your dynasty rosters. Not somebody that you want to be holding on to. Probably better off holding a running back that can get a chance due to injury in front of him. The CV here for Jamari Thrash at 23.9 is the 10th best in the class, so it's pretty confident in this particular result for Jamari Thrash. Not great numbers here, as I said, kind of one of those high floor, low ceiling guys. Let's go look at the 4 to 4.5 range there for the mean and median, see what kind of guys hit that in their rookie season. I'm just going to give you the entire list of guys that hit between 4.1 and 4.7 in their rookie year. For historical comp references, this is sitting 160th or worse in the rookie model out of, I think there's 410 some rookies or so in this. So keep that in mind, barely 50th percentile here. I'm just going to go from the bottom up. We have Matt Collins, Curtis Samuel, Ventel Bryant, Philip Dorsett, Miles Boykin, Kendrick Bourne, Colin Johnson, Riley Ridley, Josh Dotson, Parker Washington, Keyshawn Johnson, Marvin Mims, Trey Tucker, Scotty Miller, Rashad Green, Justin Hardy, Tanner McAvoy, DeAnthony Thomas, Darius Johnson, Albert Wilson. All those guys finished in between 4.1 and 4.7 fantasy points per game in their rookie season. A lot of disappointment in there. Really, Curtis Samuel, the only one who hit double-digit points at any particular point in their career following their rookie season that looked like that. And Curtis Samuel was an early second-round pick in his draft class. So keep that in mind for Jamari Thrash. Not looking good for his rookie season or his prospect profile. Moving forward from there, I don't think he's got the draft capital to necessarily sustain that particular range. The maximum output at 8.37, if he hits 100th percentile outcome, that's not even that good, but who's in that range? All of these guys are in between 8.2 and 8.7 fantasy points per game. We got Chosen Robbie Anderson, Kadarius Toney, Keelan Cole, Rashid Shaheed, Robert Woods, Tyrell Williams, Cortland Sutton, Treylon Burks, Gabe Davis, Wan'Dale Robinson, Kenny Golladay, Darius Jennings, Dante Pettis, Rashad Bateman, and Will Fuller. Mix and match of pretty decent players in there for the most part, but really that's if he hits his ceiling outcome. You're looking at the Kadarius Toney, Robbie Anderson, Treylon Burks, Kenny Golladay mold. Not exactly super inspiring, but That's his year 1 prediction. Let's go look at year 2, see what happens. And we see a little improvement here in the mean and median, but unfortunately those ranks are going down, and we still see this profile. Minimum output 1.42 is the 17th best in the class, but the maximum at 10.59 is the 29th ranked one in the class. 18th best CV at 30.3%. It's fairly confident in this, just outside the range of acceptable for any data set. So the fact that we're working with highly volatile numbers here, this is a pretty decent CV in general. High floor, low ceiling. These are generally the types of players that you want to avoid. We're sitting here at 5 fantasy points per game as a median outcome for Jamari Thrash in year 2. Who the heck hit that? And is this somebody that we want to store in our roster ever? Is there any glimmer of hope for anybody in that range who kind of broke out later on in their career? So let's go look at that range for second-year wide receivers. I'm just going to list off all the ones in between 4.85 and 5.3 fantasy points per game during their second season in the league, and you can tell me if this inspires any sort of confidence in Jamari Thrash doing well in his career. Olamide Zaccheaus, Tutu Atwell, Rashard Higgins, Marquise Lee, Justin Hardy, Paul Richardson, Freddie Swain, Chris Moore, Josh Huff, Devin Duvernay, N'Keal Harry, Deontay Hardy, Marquess Wilson, Deshaun Hamilton. A list of a bunch of bums for the most part there. Marquise Lee did end up hitting 10.8 and 11.2 fantasy points per game in his third and fourth season, so maybe there's some hope there, but I believe Marquise Lee was a pretty high draft pick, unlike Jamari Thrash here. So keep that in mind. That's the median output, that maximum at 10.59. Where does that rank? What are some historical comps? We again see Curtis Samuel here at 10.5, this time in the maximum range of outcomes. But all these guys in between 10.2 and 11 fantasy points per game. We got Zay Jones, Robert Woods, Romeo Dobbs, Devontae Parker, Rashid Shaheed, Curtis Samuel, Josh Palmer, Dante Moncrief, Dede Westbrook, Drake London, and Rondale Moore at 10.99. So keep that in mind. That's if he hits a ceiling. You're looking at those types of guys. Should he hit his ceiling outcome in year 2? Is there any improvement for him later on? We see maybe a breakout in one of these later years. And unfortunately not for Jamari Thrash in year 3. We see him take a step down both in rank and in mean and median score here. And again, his minimum 25th ranked, maximum 35th ranked, more of the high floor, low ceiling profile that we see from some of these guys in the machine learning model. So Jamari Thrash, one of those, hey, sure, he's a good route runner. Maybe he earned some targets in college, but got drafted super late. This is a guy that's got one of those, hey, maybe he can stick around the league as a 4th receiver for 5 seasons, but he really doesn't earn a ton of targets. He doesn't have a high ceiling. He's just there, getting 1 or 2 pass catches every other week, something like that. And that's maybe the role that he plays. And again, not somebody you probably want on your dynasty roster. So mean and median at 3.99 and 3.84 fantasy points per game, 31st and 32nd ranked mean and median there. Who the heck was hitting that range in year 3? I'm sure it's not an inspiring list. Here's the list of players that hit between 3.7 and 4.5 fantasy points per game during their 3rd season in the league. Trey McBride, the wide receiver, not the tight end. Corey Brown, Deshaun Hamilton, we see his name again. Freddie Martino, Kadarius Toney, we see his name again. Nick Williams, Josh Reynolds, Jason Moore, Paul Richardson, Desmond Patton, Aaron Dobson, Stedman Bailey. So again, not guys that you really ever wanted on your fantasy team outside of Kadarius Toney, but he was a 1st-round pick. Josh Reynolds may be the best out of all of those guys in terms of maybe this guy I can start on a week where I got a bunch of buys, but that's really, if you're looking at Jamari Thrash, that's probably what you're looking at in terms of viability on your fantasy team. Getting into that maximum at 9.03. What does that look like in terms of 3rd-year receivers? So all these guys in between about 8.5 and 9.5 fantasy points per game in their 3rd season. The list is obviously better here. Darnell Mooney, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, Tyrell Williams, Deontay Hardy, Rashard Higgins, KJ Osborne, Allen Hurns, Marcus Wheaton, and Juju Smith-Schuster in his third season. So a couple of decent guys in there, Darnell Mooney, Juju Smith-Schuster. Nothing really to write home about, though, and that's his ceiling outcome. It's pretty disappointing. In terms of historical comps, that's top 70 in the last 11 seasons, which is also pretty far down there. Let's look at the year 4 model, and we see further decline there in the mean and median. His ranks now there are 33rd in the class. Again, remember he was 23rd wide receiver off the board here. Minimum rank now at 37, maximum at 31. Fairly even across the board, 31 to 35 for most of the rankings here. But really just an overall disappointment. Getting into the 3.5 range in the 4th season, is there any sort of hope for him to hit some sort of ceiling at some point? Here's a list of players in between 3.1 and 4 fantasy points per game. DeAnthony Thomas, who I believe we saw earlier, Malik Turner, Laquan Treadwell, N'Keal Harry, which we see again, Michael Campanaro, Khalif Raymond, Ashton Doolin, Quez Watkins, and Bryce Butler. Not great, Bob. Let's look at that maximum output, 9.79. That's pretty disappointing as well. The decent list of players in between about 9.2 and 10.3 fantasy points per game in their 4th season. This is ceiling outcome. You're looking at he could be the next Tyrell Williams, Jamison Crowder, Chad Hansen, Paul Richardson, Gabe Davis, Alan Lazard, Kelvin Benjamin, Keelan Cole, Sammy Watkins, Allen Hurns, Chosen Robbie Anderson, Michael Gallup, Mike Williams, Marquez Wilson, Nelson Aguilar. So if he reaches his ceiling in year 4, those are the types of guys that the machine learning model says he would be like. Not inspiring. Again, Jamari Thrash, probably somebody that you can avoid on your rosters. Probably don't draft him. Go for those running backs in the later rounds. If you got a choice between Jamari Thrash and a running back, I would take those running backs. Thrash may be somebody you want to stick on your taxi squad for 1 season. See if he breaks out. If not, hey, no worries. No skin in the game. Get rid of him. Off you go into filling that roster spot with a better player. All right, that's going to do it for today's rookie prospect profile on Jamari Thrash. This is presented by Zilla Fantasy Elite. Thanks for tuning in. Bye.